Morning, class. Today I'm going to take you through the last chapter in the Leaving Certificate Business course on Unit 7, and that's chapter 25. Remember to not study these chapters in isolation, because Unit 7 should be seen as a whole, as they link together. As you see when you go to the exam papers, you'll see that the questions are divided into different sections by units. So it's important to link chapters together and to think of business as a whole. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're doing this chapter. It links very well into chapter 23 as well, okay, in particular. As you know, it's all about global business and international trade in chapter 23. And in chapter 24, we were talking about EU, and we were talking about how the EU is a good organization for helping trade and breaking down red tape within the European Union. Yeah, so this goes further now and talks about business not just within the EU, but on a global scale. In other words, internationally and around the world. Okay, right. So first slide then. So you'll see that this is an activity to do in your book, and you can do it in your book on Business Express if that's the book you have. And chapter 25, global business, is a few pages in. So they talk about a company called Unilever. And the reason they talk about a company called Unilever is because Unilever is one of the biggest companies in the world. And it owns a lot of brand names that we'd be very familiar with. So if you look at the pictures, you see Hellmann's Mayonnaise, Knorr, Persil, Lynx Spray, Calippo, etc., etc. They're all their brands, in other words, they own them. They're a global business, so they operate in many different countries around the world, and they sell those products in many different countries around the world. Okay, so what are transnational corporations? Okay, so transnational corporations are firms that produce and market goods in more than one country. So it's good to learn off particular definitions. That'll be a good definition to learn off. Yeah, so it produce and market goods in more than one country. So that means they make the goods in more than one country, and the market means they sell them in more than one country as well. So if you think of probably one of the biggest companies in the world, and we've done it as a case study, and we've sent you on video links and documentation on Amazon.com. And the reason we did that is because they're literally the biggest company in the world at the moment. If not one of the biggest at least. Their market capitalization is huge. It's like in the billions of billions. We could be talking nearly $1 trillion at this stage. McDonald's as well is a huge company, as we know. We'd all be very familiar with a lot of the companies here. Adidas, for example. The ones we're focusing in class are Amazon and Ryanair. So that we have an Irish company, a successful Irish company, airline. But I mean, if you wanted to look up extra information on Adidas, might be a nice one to do it on too there as well. That's a big German company, yeah, and we'd all know it from wearing it, from people who wear that brand for football and sponsorship of the big football teams, etc., etc. Okay, so they're all huge, big transnational corporations, massive big companies. Okay, so moving on. What are the reasons for the development of global companies? And home market saturation, no more growth. So what they're saying there is the reason for the development of these companies, why they're becoming bigger and bigger, is because in their own markets, so in Ireland, for example, Kerry Group would be a huge company. It wouldn't be so big if it only operated in Ireland. So they get to a point where they have maximized their sales in Ireland. The population as a whole, approximately around 5 million, including Northern Ireland. And they want to expand, and the way they expand is to export and get bigger and operate in different countries. So the reason for global companies is they want to expand. You know, they're public, to become public limited companies, and then they expand into different areas. Now, spread the business risk between different countries. Yeah. So the other reason why they want to go global is because if their own country isn't performing well, their economy, in other words, isn't performing well, which means all their businesses and their products and services and the amount of money that country's making is maybe not doing so well, but maybe it is in another country. So that'll give you a portfolio of different levels of risk, which is good. So if one country's doing well, you might be selling loads, say in Ireland, whereas in, say, the Congo or something, you might be selling very little. Depends where you're operating. Yeah, you mightn't want to sell into the Congo because maybe there's not a market for your product there. So that's all from market research and your experts in marketing and your marketing team to find out where to sell and where you're going to make the most profit. Okay, so achieve economies of scale. We touched on that in class a lot. Economies of scale talks about the bigger the company becomes, the cheaper it becomes to produce things, and also the more you produce in bulk, the better value you get, and also then the cheaper prices that you're going to be able to sell to customers. Because if you're getting economies of scale, everything's getting bigger. So the products per item are getting cheaper to produce. Yeah, and then you're so good and so experienced at selling stuff that your prices can reflect those economies. In other words, those advantages that you have over a small company. So you can maybe compete at a way higher level than a small company because you could force them out of the market by reducing your costs and then pricing your products a lot cheaper. Your service, it could be as well, a lot cheaper, and the other smaller companies can't compete. Okay, so avail of new global markets and opportunities. So that's the other reason for development of global companies, that they want to enter into new markets and new opportunities to make money, basically, for big companies into different countries. Faster transport and communications makes international trade easier. Okay, so now that we have huge airlines industries around the world, able to get people from A to B very quickly for, say, meetings, or if a manager needs to go and check out an operation, see how it's working, meet the staff, blah, blah, blah. And even easier again, and during this crisis, obviously, it's communications are made very easy with the likes of what I'm using here, Zoom, and people are using that a lot for meetings at the moment, along with a lot of different online platforms. Some companies, huge companies, have massive big platforms run by, say, Oracle, and different massive companies. Microsoft will set them up so that they can do their communications mostly online. So obviously that's way cheaper than getting a flight, and a lot quicker and easier to get in contact with people. I suppose the disadvantages are that you're not getting that face-to-face contact with your customers and with your employees, etc. Okay, so e-business makes selling globally easier. Well, prime example for that is Amazon. Look at it, during this crisis, it's actually outperforming every other company again. It's actually suiting it, if anything, this crisis, because people are sitting at home and they're buying lots and lots online. So e-business means electronic business. That means buying and selling online. E-business makes selling globally easier. So the fact that Amazon can reach countries in every country around the world, miles and miles apart, and easily sell to them. They've got distribution chains set up. They've got the direct link to a customer. So you and I in Ireland, but also him and her, say, in Australia or New Zealand or China or whatever it might be. So e-business is obviously a lot easier nowadays than it used to be when we didn't have the internet, etc. Called marketing. And what we looked at within that section and that unit was a marketing mix. And we said another word for marketing mix was the 4 P's of marketing. And we should know off by heart that the 4 P's of marketing are product, price, place, promotion. There's more when marketing becomes more complicated, but that's all you need to know for the exam. For example, you could add in packaging. You could add in people. Some companies do. But anyway, for the Leaving Cert, it limits it to 4 is all you need. But when it comes to global marketing mix, what you need to know is that the product, price, place, promotion all often have to get adapted or customized, in other words, which means changed to suit the local needs of local foreign markets. Now, companies operate this in different ways. So some will use a standardized marketing mix, which means they don't do an awful lot of adjustments to their brand from one country to the next. And in other companies, because of the nature of their product or service, they have to change an awful lot. Think about it. If you're selling into, say, Israel, you might have to, because they have a good standard of English, you might have to change into different languages. The symbols that you use, the colors that you use, might represent different ideas in their heads than it would in our heads. Same if you were to sell into China. You're going to be using a lot of different symbols, complicated symbols, and you need expertise in that area. So your global marketing mix is going to have to be adjusted to the Chinese culture, to its country, to its language, to the way it does business differently to us, etc., etc. Okay, and Ford here then is just Ford global marketing mix. They do a case study in the book about Ford and how they adjust their marketing mix to suit the international global market. Okay, so what is a global marketing mix? So we've talked about product, price, place, and promotion already. Okay, so global marketing means marketing or selling and finding out the needs and wants of your consumers and then selling into that need. So it means marketing a product globally, which means internationally, with broadly the same marketing mix as though the world were a single marketplace. Okay, so what they're saying there is marketing your product as if the world were like very similar, homogenous, another word for similar, and you're not adjusting an awful lot of what you do. Whereas some companies, as we said, this word here, adapt, they adapt each of the elements of the marketing mix to suit the needs of the local foreign markets. Okay, so take McDonald's, for example. McDonald's has a brand that they don't change the symbol. It's still a yellow M around the world, which you can find easily. So you're walking down a road, no matter what country you come in, that brand name is going to be almost identical everywhere in the world. More or less the same with a can of Coca-Cola. But if you get a Big Mac, for example, in France, they'll have adjusted a tiny bit in taste. They'll have added things to the menu that we wouldn't necessarily have here in Ireland. And they might run different types of food promotions at different times than would in Ireland. So it's just be aware that you might have a standardized marketing mix, and you might do minor adjustments within that to suit the local needs of the market too. So global pricing then depends on the local market. So you need to look at your pricing globally. What you charge to your Irish customers might not be the same as what you're going to charge to some of your customers in Africa. Obviously, the standard of living, the amount of wages that we get are completely different in a lot of countries in Africa compared to Ireland. So you're going to have to change your pricing to meet those needs of the local market. Global place then, that's looking at how you're going to actually distribute, how you're going to get your products from A to B within these global markets. So how are you going to get your products globally distributed? Are you going to use agents? Are you going to use licensing? Are you going to use joint ventures? That's basically getting involved with another company to help you sell in that local market. Are you going to use foreign subsidiaries? So that's basically an office. Say in China, you might employ a mixture of maybe invite people to come from Ireland. If you're an Irish company, you want to go global, you invite maybe a manager from Ireland to go over and oversee, but you also need maybe a Chinese manager working hand in hand, and then you're employing Chinese staff. So you have a number of different variables there. You might also invite some Irish staff over from Ireland. So that's that can be worthwhile, and it can also be complicated to set up. So your distribution and how you sell and how you get your products to the market, you need to consider that as a business person. Are you going to go distribute globally directly? That'd be the likes of Amazon online. Obviously, they adjust their language, etc. When you see an Amazon screen, for example, in say Russia or China, it's going to look differently to the Amazon screen that we get in the Western world. Yeah. So, or particularly in English-speaking countries. Okay, so the brand's going to be the same, but just the language obviously is going to have to, you can adjust whatever language that you want that suits the local needs. But if you're not Amazon and you're a company that needs to go out and meet people, maybe you're in building, you need to go and check some building sites out, see what way you're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have a local office, and you're going to have something like a foreign office working for you abroad. Yeah, could be an agent work in the country that you want to do business in, say, for example, wherever it might be, New Zealand or wherever. And global promotion. So obviously this can be a tricky one. For McDonald's, it's not too tricky. Everyone knows that brand and the Coca-Cola colors. The McDonald's colors, they are worldwide. So you can standardize a fair amount of their advertising and promotions. Obviously, you have to change the language when you're advertising to different countries, different languages, but you also have to take in the uniqueness of every country around the world, where every country has its own uniqueness, every country has its own needs, every country has its own interpretation and different understanding of different colors, different symbols, different messages. So you're going to have to do market research in that country and decide what's the best approach to getting your brand name popular and getting your products to market and getting your products advertised and sold, which is the key thing. So some will use sponsorship. Think of the football jersey. I always think for sponsorship. You see big companies all the time written on the very front of, say, Manchester United's or Liverpool's jerseys, or Barcelona's, or whatever it might be. And it's obviously got worldwide appeal then, because people can see those soccer games around the world. So you're advertising your brand worldwide. PR, as we said, you can use social media or the news, get positive news stories about your company and your brand into the media. The media can be your social media, your newspapers, your TV, your billboards, the whole lot. The internet, obviously, there's loads of different ways nowadays to promote in various different ways on the internet to attract customers. And then trade fairs is, just say you have a company and you want to make it popular in the local, in the country that you want to operate in. Say you're trying to expand into France, for example. You might see what trade fairs are on in Paris, say, in the next few months. Then you bring your product and you bring your people over there. You create a stand in that big building with loads of different companies in it. And what you do is you try and persuade people to take on your product, buy your product, to create links with your product, maybe to develop distribution chains, develop alliances, contacts that are going to help you sell that product. Okay. Again, any questions, you email myself. I've handed out my email before, so you know it from the last presentation. Okay, Kerry Foods. So a brilliant company, Kerry Foods. It's one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest, for the ingredients that you see. So you read the ingredients on most packages of foods. You can be guaranteed 9 times out of 10, Kerry Group have got some of their ingredients in that packet of food. So that's something to be proud of. It's a great Irish company, very profitable Irish company. And even during the crisis, there's always going to be need for ingredients in food. So good overall company. And one worth researching. So we've got Ryanair, the airline with Michael O'Leary. This is another one, a big Irish company, if you prefer to do some work on that. What we're going to concentrate on is Ryanair and Amazon. Or Google, we were saying, if you didn't want to do Amazon. Okay, so moving on. What are the benefits and risks for a business operating globally? Okay, so the benefits then are of going global are you've obviously more countries that you can sell to. The more countries you can sell to, the more sales and profits you can potentially earn and make. You can generate economies of scale, because the bigger you get, the easier it is to produce, the cheaper it is to produce. When you get into mass production of items, it becomes very cheap to make different items. If you even take the example of Country Crest, an Irish company who produce vegetables, they were recently on Grow, Cook, Eat on RT2 and on Wednesday nights. An interesting series, but tying it into this, they are a company who said they can't compete by only producing a small amount of vegetables, that they need to really concentrate on certain types of vegetables and produce them in mass numbers to be able to compete with big companies around the world, and also to be able to be up to spec for what the retailers, i.e. Tesco's, Super Value, Dunster's, what they want and need in terms of vegetable production, because they often give cheap prices into those retailers. And what they prefer to do is go direct and be able to sell directly locally to people for a better price. Anyway, so that's Country Crest. They've got economies of scale at this stage because they're producing loads and loads of vegetables with massive machinery and massive amounts of land, and they're able to get their prices down by doing that. Okay, so global brand recognition is another benefit of going global. So, in other words, your brand gets known around the world. Think of McDonald's, the M sign, known globally. Think of the Nike tick. Think of Coca-Cola, the red and white writing in the middle, and the actual writing itself is a symbol worldwide now. So business strength and survival. So you're going to survive arguably better if people know your brand name and they know it's a brand name associated with quality and something that they really like. Okay, and then the risks then for business operating globally are you might not be able to meet the customer's needs properly because you're trying to sell into different countries around the world. It's not always easy. It can be hard to manage. Obviously, the more variables involved and the more languages involved, the more obviously it's more complicated. Having good people and good ICT systems can really help that. Diseconomies of scale, such as poor communications. So if you have poor ICT equipment, or you've just so many different levels and layers of management, this ties back into our other chapter when we're doing organizational structures. So if you have a poor organizational structure where communication's getting lost because you're getting so big, it's becoming very, very hard to manage and to communicate with your managers and your staff and your customers and your stakeholders. Obviously, that can be a disadvantage or risk. And then global scale risks. So what are they? They're the likes of huge ones like climate change coming down the tracks. So there's the COVID-19 virus currently happening. That's affecting all economies around the world. And that's a global risk, and that's a massive risk for these global companies. And it's a massive risk for Ireland and its global companies because there's going to be a lot of countries that are going to suffer and not going to be buying the products from those Irish companies. They're not going to be able to afford it. They might have to scale back. In other words, reduce their employees, reduce their production in those countries, and reduce their sales in those countries out of no choice, because people will be losing jobs and people will have less money to spend on their products. So those global risks are happening now. And also you'd have all sorts of global risks. You had a banking crisis not so long ago. You have things like food crisis from time to time. You've got weather patterns that change food production, for example. That's a risk as well. There's loads of global risks. There's risks happening globally all the time, different pandemics, different problems, and they impact on business globally. Okay, and if you're a global company, then obviously it's going to impact more on your type of company than if you were keeping more local. Okay, so this slide here talks about Enterprise Ireland, and Enterprise Ireland is a fabulous organization in Ireland. I use it myself, my own company, Montenegro.ie, and it's, you know, it helps me in loads of ways. It helps you with your skills in terms of how to promote your business. It helps you web design, how to build your own website if you want. It'll help you get into foreign markets if you want. It'll help give advice on those markets. It'll help give you market research that has already been done in those foreign markets to make it easier for you to trade in those foreign markets. So market research is huge because that takes so much time and money and effort from people. That's great to have an organization that has done the work for you. International promotion, they'll help you promote your brand internationally. Why? Because they want Irish companies to do well, because that helps create money, and money creates jobs and taxes, and it's all circular, and it all makes Ireland Inc. a more profitable place for everyone. So they also help with distribution chains. So they might already know someone who knows someone, and they've got links within those countries who have had successful links with Irish companies in the past, and they'll say, right, we'd recommend maybe using this distributor. It's worked well for our other Irish companies. So they have experience, and you can go to them and get advice on that. Translation services, they'll help you translate and help you know maybe the ins and outs of local cultural needs. So obviously it's worth talking to them about that before you were to enter into the new market. They give you advice on regulations. Now, regulations is a tricky one because laws and regulations are not all the same around the world. They're similar within the EU because that's what the EU wants, to make business and trade easier. But if you go to other countries outside the EU, their laws and their regulations and the way they want to do business might be very different to the way we do business in Ireland and within the EU. So you need to get advice on that. They also have grants, so that's free money that you don't have to pay back. And then you give venture capital. And what venture capital is, they invest money in your business with the hope that they're going to get a return on it. So we did in previous chapters that when you invest in a company, you invest in equity. So you take a share, you buy part of the company, and then you get paid things called dividends, which is maybe a monthly check in the post. If your company is profitable, then you get payback from that company. And then if you want to sell on your shares in future, then hopefully the company's become bigger and you've made money, and Enterprise Ireland has made money on your company, and they'd sell their shares maybe into the future. Okay, so moving on. Oh, that's it. Okay, so again, that ties up the Unit 7. I hope you've learned something, and we were able to add a few key points into the slides that are there already. Again, if you have any questions, you have me online, and please use that. Service is available to you. Best luck, keep well, bye-bye.